Baerga. I am privileged to be the principal here, and on behalf of myself and Mrs. McNatt, our assistant principal, we'd like to welcome you to our beginning band concert. So welcome. Give these guys a big round of applause. It's always the most exciting performance when we get to show you and illustrate to you how hard your students have been working as young musicians, especially this being the first time that they're ever performing as a full band together here in JBM. And of course, they had the opportunity to perform earlier this afternoon for their classmates, but we all know that the best audience to perform for is your parents. So let's give them another big round of applause because I know they're excited. Not every student gets to learn to play an instrument. It takes a lot of mental work and time and commitment, not only on their part, but you as the parents. And so we also want to recognize all of your hard work and your commitment to helping them be musicians here for our band. And it's one of the greatest honors that we have to have our new beginning band students just embark on their musical journeys and become one of the huge history members of our JBM band. So we're really excited to welcome them into our family as musicians, and we know that you're going to really enjoy their performance this evening. Now, I know many of you are anxious about hearing them demonstrate what they've learned these last few weeks and in their successful but brief music careers. So after learning to assemble their instruments, there was a lot of trepidation, I'm sure, even though you sat through Mr. Walls's short performance about how to order your instrument and pay for your instrument. Sorry, Mr. Walls. You were really anxious to hear what they were going to sound like, and the kids couldn't wait to put their instruments together, even though we said, just wait till tomorrow, wait till we can teach you how to do it. But they did. They put it all together, and for the very first time, we were excited, and this is what they sounded like. It was pretty clear that Mr. Walls had his work cut out for him. We knew that for sure. But after a few weeks, just a few weeks of Mr. Walls patiently working with your children, they sounded a little bit more like this. We'll try that again. They sounded a little more like this. Quite an improvement for sure, but they still had a lot of work ahead of them so that they could be ready for this evening's performance for all of you, and certainly for their classmates today. And exercise 1, the students learned how to play their very first note, which sounded like this. That first note helped them to lead into their next exercise, number 2, where they learned to count and play. This is extremely necessary to perform together as a band. So next on the band book was exercise number 3, which introduces a new note, and they learned to play this together as well. And now they could play an entire song, Two's a Team, and here it goes. It's still a lot more interesting than one note, we'll give them that. But obviously, it was a great basis for them to build off of because it allowed them to learn more music that was much more challenging, because you certainly wouldn't walk around humming that tune around all day. So let's listen to yet another new note that might help. Let's head down to the next lower note as the band plays this new one. That was it? Clap. And now that they had all of these notes down, they moved on to exercise number 6, where they were ready to move on up. So at their upcoming lessons, they knew they were in it for the long haul, and Mr. Walls could see that the beginning band had great promise, and they learned a few more notes. And so here they are playing, here's the first of the 2 songs that they learned to play in that round. And then they scored a touchdown with their 5th note. And here they are playing touchdown. Clap. With 5 notes under their belts, they were ready to rock and roll. So here's the band playing the Fab Five. So up to this point, as the students are playing in their instrument books and they're following along, they're learning to read the notes, but it's also saying what each of the notes represents. So as they finished up these few pieces, the book automatically transitions your children into learning to play by reading the music. So there's no help where that's coming from. And that's when Mr. Walls says to them, the party's over. You're officially on your own. You're now officially musicians. You know these key notes. You should be able to read them. And so now this no longer helps the musician to identify the note names. And here they are playing, reading their notes in the band book. Song number 11. Another song that's introduced in the band book to help the students identify the notes is called First Flight. So here they will play that as well. that they could start playing some recognizable tunes. And this was actually the day that probably Mrs. McNatt and I were walking through the hallway and thought to ourselves, oh, they're starting to take hold. It's starting to come all together, because this is what they sounded like that day. All right, families, get your cameras ready, because now this is the part where you get to actually hear the same song, but with your child's specific section playing. So we're going to begin with our flutes as they play by themselves, Hot Cross Buns. And we certainly would not forget our clarinets. And now our alto saxophones. And now we'll hear from our brass instruments, and we'll start with the trumpets. And now possibly one of the most important sections in our band, the low brass section. Here's our fantastic trombone section. And now the section that holds the beat together and keeps all of our music going, the percussion section. The percussion section consists of the snare drum and the bass drum. So let's hear them play. So now that you've heard each of the sections, we're going to have them play the same song again, all of them together at the same time, so you can really see how it all comes together. come a long way since they produced their first tunes for all of you, and it's certainly been exciting for me and Mrs. McNatt and Mr. Walls and all of their teachers to kind of see how far that they've come, but certainly as you, as parents as well, we know that you're supporting the music program in your homes, and sometimes it can be really daunting just to find any extra time to fit into your day or their busy schedules, all the other things that they have going on. And having parents who encourage the arts and music, there's lots of evidence to show and support that this makes a huge difference, not just in them as individuals, but showing them how to be a part of something, and also really inspires and helps to do well with school as well. So we can't thank you guys enough. So stomp it out for your parents, guys. I also want to take a moment to recognize Mr. Walls, who's also our band director and chorus director here at JBM. Many of you may know as being former parents here from JBM, but Mr. Walls is shared between us and the other intermediate school. And so every week, he's the only teacher that we have in both intermediate schools that goes back and forth several times a week, sometimes during the school day, back and forth, to make certain that all of our students have the best musical arts foundation. And it really helps to build our bridge for our middle school and high school bands as well. So I want to really extend a special thank you to him this evening for all of his hard work and commitment. I also want to give a shout out to Mr. Mack, who is a teacher here at JBM, but a faithful participant and attendee at all of our beginning band concerts and all of our performances, because all of his kids always make sure that he comes. So Mr. Mack, shout out to you. And to Miss Huff, our music teacher, who's also a band director and assists with the band at the high school. It's just really, we're all committed to our music program, and so we want to recognize them for coming out on a Friday evening to be here for your kids as well. So special thank you to all of them. Our young musicians were able to play Hot Cross Buns, and they were raring to learn yet another familiar song. So here they are playing a song entitled Rolling Along from our band. You might know it the same way I do as Mary Had a Little Lamb. Now, the next song that they're about to play is not probably a song that our students were familiar with, but there might be some folks here in the audience that are, and it's called Go Tell Aunt Roadie.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's hard to believe that it's only been like 8 or 9 weeks since we met in here to talk about the band program and get our instruments. Your children have been working really, really hard at home preparing for tonight, and I think they've done a terrific job. So I commend the parents and the grandparents and the brothers and sisters out here who are supporting these children and encouraging them to practice on their instruments. So good job, parents. Give yourselves a big round of applause. You've really done a terrific job. But this is, the beginning of a musical journey. And Some of these children are very good at being self-motivated about things. I know that many of these kids come home and they jump right on their homework and they take care of all of the chores around the house, and then they practice their instruments. They're so fantastic, and nobody ever has to say to do any of that stuff. And if you're the one person in the audience whose child that is, good for you. But everybody else knows that it takes, motivation is great, but it takes discipline to get things done. You have to be disciplined in life, knowing the things that you have to do sometimes once a week, sometimes a couple times a week, and sometimes things need to be done every day. And playing a musical instrument really needs to be done every day. That is your goal, is to have your child have his or her instrument in her hands, in his hands every day. Because we're asking them to do something that's very foreign. It's hard enough to play an instrument and make a sound on it. It's really hard to learn how to read music. It's incredibly difficult to do both at the same time. And that's what these kids are doing. And it's so hard. Want to know what makes it even harder? Not doing it enough. What makes it really easy? Doing it every day. It really does. Even if it's just for 10 minutes, I'll take it. Most of the time, if they can practice for 15 or 20 minutes, 25 or 30 minutes, sometimes that's really what it takes. Now, many of you are aware, hopefully all of you are aware, that this year, well, you don't know that it's new, but I've created some lesson videos, and I have them posted on our website. There are YouTube videos and a YouTube channel that I have created, and I was looking at it today. I've had 1,700 hits of kids going to these videos and using them, and that's fantastic, and that number makes me very happy. I had a child come to me today to lessons, a child who was really struggling last week, and this child said, "Mr. Walls, I used your videos this past week. I think maybe for the first time, I'm not sure. But the student said, I used them and they really helped." And I said, yes, I can see that they did. And it's like getting another lesson. And the third video that I've created has these 4 songs that are at the bottom of your program. And they truly are the foundation of what we are going to be doing in the future. We were in a number of our lessons today. I didn't get to do it with my trumpets and trombones, but I had an extra sheet on their music stands this afternoon that had a whole bunch of songs on them, but they're laid out in a different way. It's just the note names. And we looked at them with the flutes and the clarinets and the saxophones, and we were playing Jingle Bells, and we were working on Up on the Housetop, and Jolly Old Saint Nick, and the Ode to Joy melody, and they were really doing quite well off of this special sheet of music that I gave them today. So I encourage them to play around with that over the vacation, play from their band book, and look at this new piece of music that I gave them today. It's very, very, very helpful. It's learning how to identify the notes as you look at the page. Not being able to do that is what causes most kids to ultimately drop out of the program, because they get frustrated because we keep looking at more and more challenging music that requires better and better music reading skills. And if your child is only practicing 1 or 2 or 3 times a week, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. So if you want your child to become a real musician, a good player, and when you hear us at I Love Smyrna Day, and when you hear them again in the spring, you're going to be shocked at what they do. I promise you. I hope you're surprised tonight. You haven't seen anything yet. But keep doing a great job, moms and dads and grandparents. And on the front page of your program, at the very bottom, if you don't have the privilege of receiving my pesky remind texts once or twice a week, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to keep these kids on track. If you have a phone and you text message and you would like to sign up for a reminder that will come in on a Thursday afternoon or maybe Friday morning and say, hey, we have band today, let's remember our instruments. If your child forgets his or her instrument on their band day, they've missed for the week, unless somebody can run the instrument into them, and that's a pain. So get yourself signed up for the text messages. I send out the schedule every week through that Remind text messaging. I send out lots of information about, several weeks ago I sent out a flyer about this concert, what to wear, what time to be here. It's important stuff. I really want your child to be successful, and that's why I'm doing this. So sign up for those text messages if you would. Keep your child practicing. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and a Merry Christmas, and a Happy Hanukkah, and whatever your faith may be for the holidays. I wish you the very best. I thank you so much for allowing me to work with your children. They're fantastic kids. They're doing a great job tonight. I'm loving it. Thanks, Mrs. Bayerga, for doing the narration tonight. Give her a big round of applause, students and parents. And thank you, Mrs. McNabb, and Ms. Hutt, and Mr. McWiggin for being here tonight. This applause is for you guys as well. Thank you so much.
That's always my dreaded part where Mr. Wall starts to talk and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to keep all 100 of them quiet. So, good work, ladies and gentlemen, you did it. Nobody blew their instruments, nobody dropped their drumstick. On purpose, we'll say. No, just to echo what Mr. Wall said, first, a reminder to all of you as parents, as you're sitting here, if you've not called in to schedule your parent conferences, they're Monday and Tuesday, so feel free to give our office a call. We'd love to set up a time with you or have your teachers meet with you about your children. Sorry, I had to remind them. Secondly, we do want to wish you all a blessed holiday season. Thank you for all of your support here of JBM. We really enjoy working with your children each and every single day. We hope that they come home with great experiences from our school, and it really is just a partnership, so we appreciate all that you do for us as well. So without any further ado, we're going to turn it over to our students who are going to play our last number, our final selection for this evening, which is a Mozart melody. To our 6th grade band members who are filling in and helping out with spots. 5th grade band students, let's give them a big round of applause too.